Look at this. Oh, Sayu.
たまには外の日にも当たらないと。
Traumatized.
私は一体これからどうすればいいんだ。
Oh. Juicy. It's the dude. The score though. Shido. You know Ryu, come on. Oh, he sounds just like Frankie. Oh, there it is. Nia.
N か。
そしてNの言っていたメロという少年がニアに一番近いところにいたそうです。
Ichiban.
ニアが L の後継者、メロも L の後継者になろうとしていたはず。だとするとおそらくメロは手段を選ばずニアを出し抜きノートを。
これが2人の似顔絵だ。
Pretty accurate.
写真は残っていない。
There was one of Mello, but Nier took it.
僕はまだ L と戦って。
Look at that.
すでに手配中のマフィアのリストをミサに見せて。
Ooh, Shinigami eyes.
死神の目で表せた。
寿命が見えない人。105番。名前はジャック・ネイロンになってるけど、本名はカル・スナイダー。
Whoa.
奴は潜伏している場所を封書で出すようデスノートでスナイダーを操って。
Oh.
手紙来てたよ。
居場所はロス。やった。完全に2人を出し抜いた。やはりノート。
There's that attitude I remember.
最強だ。
ライト。
Oh, he's here.
ライトの役に立てたね。
Oh, look at this.
ああ、愛しているよ、ミサ。
Yeah, Light's certainly playing the game a bit now. Or a bit more. Yeah, he's certainly playing the game. The score though.
一応みんなに気づいてもらって話できるようになりたいな。
Yeah. Oh.
現所有者のスナイダー。ヒュースタン。
なんだ
Stomp.
ノートが勝手に。
生きててもおかしくね
Any second now?
え。ボス、この薄汚い仮装をしているやつ、シーリですか？
新入りじゃなくて死神なんだけど。
Okay, I swear that's Frankie. Or the same voice actor.
みんな、これに座ってくれ。俺はおかしくない。
He's freaking, man.
いいだろう。ノートに座ってみるんだ。
Just like the task force saw Rem. Oh, they're tripping, man.
人間に俺は殺せない。
Mello's chill.
この死神、存在も言っていることも。
今から僕はこのノートの所有権を捨てる。
Whoa.
そしてリュウカはこれからこのノートを渡す人物についてくれ。
なんだ？所有権を捨てる？
そんなことしたら記憶がなくなっ
No,
ちゃうん
he
じゃ
can
ない？
try.
ミサのノートを貸してくれ。こうしていれば僕が自分のノートの所有権を捨てて。
Because he's constantly touching it.
何をするつもりなの？
それをこれから説明する。
The shot of Ryu.
失敗は許されない。
Okay, Yagami-kun.
この2つのルールが出し上げだというのは。
ああ、それは絶対嘘。
He has no reason to keep up the
使う前
facade.
に死神がふざけて書いたんだろうな。
このノートがキラの手を経ているのかどうか。経ているならこれが嘘だと分かっているのかいないのか。外で見張れ。いいな。
なんだ
Whoa.
こいつ。人間のくせに。
Yeah.
怖え。
キラというなら証拠は？
証拠。私がキラだという証拠になるものがすぐそちらに届きます。 私の持っているノートです。
どういう意味だ。
私の渡すノートは顔を見るだけでその人間の名前がわかるようにできます。いいですか、ノートと一緒に渡します。つまり11月10日23時59分、この瞬間があなた方がノートを取り戻す最大のチャンスです。
キラの策に乗るのは不本意だがいい案だ。
その通りです。
おお、now they
しかしマフィアたちが死ぬ時間が判明しただけではなんとも。
井出さん分かってて言ってるでしょう。だから死神がついていて目の取引をして確実に殺せってことじゃ。
Oh, Chief Yagami's gonna do it.
私が
そんな。
元はといえば私がノートを
Yeah,
渡
he
してい
feels a lot of guilt still.
そのことで自ら死ぬことさえ考えていた。ノートを使って犯罪者を殺す。そしてその13日後に私も死ぬ。
父さんがノートに名前を書くような展開になったらその時はでは
Like Yagami can't let them know that the 13-day rule's fake.
死神と目の取引を。
リュウク、頼む。わかりました。
Whoa. Whoa. The raid.
クソシデ何を。
いいから黙って見てろよ、シド。
Oh shit.
お前が余計なことしなければノートは戻ってくるんだよ。
Whoa. Basura.
ノートも無事奪還。
これから戻ります。
いやまだです。
まだメロ
らしきものが見つかっていません。その建物内のどこかに必ず潜んでいます。ここまで来たら焦らず捜索してください。
Title of the episode, man. Father, that still has me. That's been lingering in my mind the whole time. Yeah.
MIHAEL
Whoa.
KEEHL 本名ミハエル・ケール。
Mihail.
やばい。なぜ。
やった。
もう諦めるんだメロ。おとなしく捕まれば殺したりはしない。
何をバカなことを。早くノートに書いて殺せ。バカ、そのまま書け。書くんだ。すまないな。俺は本当にお前を殺す気はなかった。ヤガミ、お前人を殺したことないだろ。
Hell yeah. Oh, Chief Yagami. Mello's a madman.
くそ、逃げられたのか。だから早く殺せと。
He held on to the book.
父さん、父さん、頼む、死なないでくれ。
Oh man.
私はまだ死神の目を持っている。あの死神のリュウクの話ではノートを所有する人間の寿命は見えない。ライト。
Ah, right.
お前はキラじゃない。
He gave up ownership earlier.
本当に。
Because he was.
それも大事だが今はもっと大事なことがあるだろう。メロの名前をノートに。
すまなかった。 結局私は奴を殺せなかった。
こんな時なんだ。多少取り乱しても。父さん、奴の名前を最後の力で書くんだ。やられっぱなしでいいのか。父さん。
残念ですが。
父さん、父さん、父さん、死ぬな、バカ野郎。
Oh. Yeah, the title, man.
いくらキラ操作のためとはいえ、こんなノート一冊あれば十分。返します。
And he's gone.
ノートを使った人間は不幸になるか。まあ宗一郎は使ったわけじゃないし、息子がキラじゃないと信じていけただけでも幸せか。
All right, folks. Yeah, really deflating. Really deflating. I've had that feeling a few times throughout the series now. Really early on, through Naomi, right? Then, of course, recently L, now Chief Yagami, Soichiro Yagami. Damn. At this point, especially after this episode, I cannot see an ending that could possibly have Light Yagami or Kira come out on top, right? Defeat all of his opposition, right? Opposing forces, and just come out on top and rule as Kira, god of the new world. I can't see that ending. I simply cannot see that type of ending anymore. This individual simply has to face the music. He has to face the consequences of his actions. I really can't see an ending that's going to have Light Yagami come out on top, defeating all of his challenges and rivals. No, I can't see it. This episode really drove that home. Now, for me at least, it's all about how he gets taken out. And that's not even a big call, is it? Because it's been quite clear since the time skip that this is not the same Light Yagami. In this episode he had some moments of OG Kira, OG Light Yagami from the first half. But then yet again, there are some moments of failure in this episode as well. And I think there's a few things in this episode that really are going to, have the walls closing in on him. And one of them being this unpredictable Shinigami that showed up, right? Unforeseen Shinigami or, chaotic presence that showed up. Much like L didn't know about Shinigami all that time ago, Light did not know about Shiru, right? Who's clearly voiced by the same voice actor as Frankie from One Piece. I don't even need confirmation. The second time I heard him speak, I'm like, yeah, that's him. It has to be him. I've been watching One Piece for a long time. I know him. So, it's really cool. Now that's 3 characters. The voice actor for Usopp did L. Mogi is the same voice actor for Zoro. And now I have Shiru, who seems to be done for the time being. It appears that he's kind of like a one and done type character. But the impact, I think the impact this character is about to have, or the Shinigami is about to have, and he doesn't even know about it, right? It's massive, right? But yeah, this unknown presence, chaotic presence, is going to probably play quite a part, right? And I'm speaking of the 13-day rule, right? That's been blown open. And as expected, he had no reason to play along. Though, of course, the one surprising thing is that he didn't seem to hold any animosity towards Ryuk once he did come across his death note. Because, he just said, he kind of, almost kind of, pushed it aside. Though he did confirm that, yeah, it's fake rules, and that, that's the major thing I'm getting at here. He doesn't even know it, but, he just put Light Yagami in a tough spot, really tough spot. I think this could be the opening. Like I said, since the time skip, Light Yagami's been a bit off his game. I'm certainly not the same Light Yagami I remember, but again, there's signs of it in this episode for sure, right? Yeah, that Light Yagami certainly back. But I feel like there's so many just chances there. There's so many signs there that, yeah, he's kind of up against it, right? Mello got through again, right? You see how frustrated he is that Mello, after doing all of that, Mello still got out of there, right? And now Mello actually knows that, they were able to, or at least Chief Yagami was able to know his name, Mihail, right? Just by looking at him, and you see that in his reaction as he puts the mask on just in case, right? As the other members of the task force come in. So he knows that now. He knows that. So, next steps for Mello, he got out of there from the looks of it, right? He got out of there. Not from the looks of it. They didn't find any bodies. He escaped. Next order of business, he has to be thinking about photographs, right? And I'm sure he must know, or he must realize now that he did slip up and he left a photograph back at the orphanage. But little does he know, Nier and his rival actually, kind of took care of that slip up for him, right? He made sure to take that photograph, and he has it on him. So yeah, next steps for Mello has to be protecting himself, right? Now that he knows that, just that there is a possibility to just get the name by looking at him. So, those are the next steps. Is he going to take the risk of going back to the orphanage? Even though, the photograph's not there. But, at this point in time, Light Yagami and the task force has looked into the orphanage, right? So, yeah, it's probably not the best idea to go back to the orphanage, right? So, I don't know. There's a bit of a disconnect here, right? Nier has his photograph, but, Mello's certainly going to be looking for that to secure that, to know in the back of his mind that, that angle is out of the picture, right? That he can't be killed because of that. So yeah, maybe some sort of potential Nier and Nier and Mello meeting, right? Maybe a phone call, something, right? But yeah, it's kind of insane how close Mello is. He's like really close at this point in time. And I feel like if N had the information Mello has now, given the fact that they already know, both of them know that, it has to be someone that has connections to the Japanese police force, right? That's how they knew about the kidnappings, of the director. And that was one of the reasons Light Yagami holds back from killing his own sister, because he knew if he does that, it's going to connect them to someone in the task force. So something similar happened in this episode. Again, I'll get into that. I don't want to just go back and forth. I'll have a whole segment on Light Yagami and his actions, and the lack of restraint, given that it's his family. But I'll get to that. Mello was asking all the right questions the moment he found out about the fake rules, right? The immediate thought he was having here is that, you could prove your innocence because of this 13-day rule. And, the real question here is, did this book, or this copy of the Death Note, this notebook, is this the one Kira used, right? And if he did, it presents this opportunity to, prove his innocence, right? Using this fake rule. I quickly wanted to mention here, I think Mello actually tried out something here. He kind of did a test here on Shiru, right? He was quite menacing in his delivery of this, but I think he was trying to see if a human is able to, or if a Shinigami is going to listen to a human, if that possibility is there, right? The possibility to collaborate. So, he kind of orders Shiru to go outside. Of course, that serves two purposes. Or, of course, it could be just totally off about this, and that wasn't the case at all. And he wasn't testing anything out. He just legitimately wanted him to be outside on guard duty, because no one can spot him, right? But I do think he was also kind of testing it out, the limits or the possibilities of Shinigami human collaboration. So he's potentially trying to see if Kira was able to strike up some kind of deal with the Shinigami attached to the Death Note, right? And trying to see if Shinigami is open to helping out a human, by putting in the fake rules, because Shiru confirmed that it was the Shinigami that put in the rules, right? The fake rules. So, yeah, Mello is thinking about all the right things, asking all the right questions. If, the 13-day rule and, the attachment of Shinigami to that Death Note or Kira leaks out to Nier, then Light Yagami's in trouble. He's in trouble because that opens a whole new set of problems for him, right? Yeah, I think that 13-day rule could really, really mess things up for Light Yagami. And, this maybe, again, there's quite a bridge to cross here because, I'm assuming, this hypothetical is kind of assuming if Nier was to get this kind of information, right? And then because of Nier, perhaps maybe people from the task force, right? If they ever heard that the 13-day rule is it's a sham, it's fake, then there's still hope. There's still hope that maybe they start thinking twice about this, about L's suspicions that he maintained for the longest time, right? So yeah, this fake rule, it's out there now. But if the only thing he has going for him right now is that Nier doesn't know about this, right? Because if Nier knows about this, he'll try to instigate things, right? So yeah, it's kind of crazy how close they are. Mello and Nier, and if Nier gets this information, I think he'll know. Much like Al was kind of able to figure out that, okay, it is like Yagami, I just have to prove it, right? I have to have evidence, right, that others can agree with. I think Nier might come to the same conclusion, or it's possible he could get to that same conclusion that, okay, it is someone from the task force. And, it's kind of tough to see how Mello could possibly team up with Nier. They made that clear that he's not going to team up. Right, so that's one of the great setup moments. They showed us that Mello and Nier have always been competitive, right? They never get along. Mello himself mentioned that to Roger. So again, quite a bridge to be crossed here. So I don't know how how Nier could potentially get this information, but that's the opening. That's the opening right there for Nier, and potentially people from the task force finally potentially questioning Light Yagami, right? If they get this information that the rules are fake, right? But the fact that information is out there now in the world of this story, yeah, that again, I don't want to cross that bridge just yet, but that information is out there now, right? Mello has that information, so let's see. Exciting potential there for sure. Oh, and another crucial point I forgot to mention here is that the fact that both Nier and Mello knew about the Japanese task force that is hunting down Kira. And, Mello knows that Chief Yagami, Soichiro Yagami, had the Death Note, or the task force had the Death Note in their possession, right? Both Nier and Mello knew this, right? Yeah, because of their research. Now, then later he found out that Chief Yagami, Soichiro Yagami, was the one that was kind of made the custodian, right? He was the one holding it. So essentially, since they are the ones hunting down Kira, those men, the members of the task force, are the ones that have to be bamboozled with this fake rule, the 13-day rule, and the other rules. But the 13-day rule is the crucial one here, right? You see that just like L, Mello is also already questioning the 13-day rule, right? L he knew almost instantly, okay, something's fishy here. And, in his final appearance in episode 25, he was about to put it into motion, right, to test it out. He was actually quite sure it's a fake rule, but he wanted to make sure and show the rest of the task force as well. But of course, he didn't get to follow through. But the thing is, Mello has a direct source, a Shinigami himself or itself confirming this. L didn't have that, right? So of course, L is, no one can be on L's level, right? But that being said, these two, Mello and or Nier, you know, they're damn good as well, right? And you know, and in that sense, Light Yagami now really knows the extent of the challenge he's facing now, because he knows these are meant to be the top two individuals that were being groomed, trained to be L's true successor. Now, you know, officially it became N. You know, so now he knows his competition, or he knows the level of his competition. I mean, he goes as far as to say, I'm still facing L, right? So now he's thinking on that level. So, you know, he might not slip up as much as he was in these last few episodes, now that he knows the challenge he's facing. Yet he wasn't able to, you know, get Mello, because Mello's so unpredictable, right? He wasn't able to get him. But yeah, going back to that point of Mello knowing that, okay, it was a task force that had to be bamboozled by this, the fake set of rules, right? The 13-day rule and the others. So that means that someone that was being suspected of being Kira, or was one of the prime suspects, was trying to, you know, prove his innocence, or their innocence, right? So that's why it's so crazy how close they are now. That's why I keep saying, if Nier was to get this information, Light Yagami's in big trouble. Big trouble. He has a lot of problems, even though he seemed quite confident at points of this episode. And, you know, I mentioned, oh, that's a Light Yagami, I remember that attitude of his. But yeah, no. Yeah, he's about to face a lot of challenges in this last phase of the story. But yeah, Mello kind of lost his crew, so he's kind of on his own now, right? So let's see, he's got to be on the run now. But, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could get in contact with Roger, right, to find out somehow, you know, if there's a photograph of him back at the orphanage, if it's still there. I mean, he knows there's a photograph of him, but, you know, he can potentially get in contact with Roger, right, and see and confirm if it's still there or not. Now, before I get into the Chief Yagami stuff, right, great loss for the story. Sad, you know, incredibly sad. And, you know, I loved how the opening and the ending kind of bookended the episode, right? Of course, incredibly sad moment in the beginning as you see the psychological effects of this extreme trauma Sayu was put through, right? Being kidnapped. And, you know, she might never be the same again, right? And, you know, it goes back to something Ryuk said a few episodes ago. It might have been episode 27, I think. You know, I think he called it such an unfortunate and heartwarming family, right? Ryuk sees a lot of these things. And, you know, of course, all that time ago, you know, Ryuk seeing Chief Yagami for the first time, and, you know, those distinct shots of him really checking out Chief Yagami. Yeah, you see Chief Yagami ends up dying in this episode. So yeah, you know, again, I think the shots of Ryuk, close-ups of his face, and you know, in relation to the scene and the others present in that scene, you know, they're something you certainly have to keep an eye out for. And then, of course, you know, because of the state Sayu's in, you see Chief Yagami is, as expected of someone like him, a man of his stature, a man of his, you know, values, you know, as expected, he's not able to, you know, kind of just overlook and move on from this insurmountable guilt that he's drowning in at the moment. You know, like I said, he's not Light Yagami, right? Light Yagami could easily just, you know, move on. But, you know, this is Chief Yagami, right? The Soichiro Yagami. And you see, he was not able to, you know, ultimately he was not able to kill Mello, right? And I'm kind of surprised that, you know, Light actually expected Chief Yagami, his father, to actually put down Mello's name in the death note. I think that right there is also short-sighted by Light, you know, and I've got to say, I kind of enjoyed his tantrum as Chief Yagami tells Mello, I'll give you a chance to surrender, right? Just, you know, put down the remote and surrender. And you see Light just freak out, and, you know, he even calls his father an idiot at one point, I think. But yeah, I like seeing him throw that tantrum, right? Because Chief Yagami, Soichiro Yagami, was not going to put down his name. And you see that even Mello kind of put that together. You know, he realized, okay, this is not the type of man who is open to killing people, right? Again, strong sense of justice established really early on in the series. He couldn't make himself do it, right? He had an intention. He certainly had the intention of doing that, I think. But, you know, ultimately, at that moment, at the precise moment, you know, his true nature certainly reigned supreme, as he was not able to kill someone like that. You know, that's just not how he does things. That's just not the type of justice he believes in, right? So he wasn't able to put down Mello's name and kill him, right? Make the choice to kill him. And, you know, it's been established for a long time now that, you know, he gets really frustrated, really frustrated, and gets, and he has this childish nature about him as well, for sure. If things are not going according to plan, according to his plan, even if you find the character interesting, the character of Light Yagami, right? That persona, he's insufferable, man. He is. He really is. But let's look at that final scene in the hospital room. At that moment in time, on his father's deathbed, he's still thinking about the Mello problem, right? How is he? Maybe on a minuscule level, maybe you could say, eyes on the prize, right? Maybe. But come on, his father's on his deathbed, and he's still thinking about using his father on his deathbed to, eliminate that threat he has of Mello, right? Of course, he puts on an act, right? And that's a definitive thing. He himself is in his inner monologue. He's thinking, I could sell this, and kind of make it seem like, in this state of anger, he's trying to urge his father to, make sure he doesn't let these criminals or that criminal get one over him, right? A bit of bad acting there, clearly. Again, I keep going back to the task force and hoping that someone picks up on these things. But, again, let's see. Still about 8 episodes left for the series. So let's see, I think essentially if anyone from the task force hears about the 13-day rule being fake, then that presents some exciting possibilities. Then maybe I'll finally get someone from the task force finally, looking at it from a different angle, from a new perspective, and finally maybe putting it together, why L was so hell-bent on going after Light Yagami as his prime suspect. Let's see how it plays out. But yeah, deathbed, he's trying to get his father to write down the name. And, again, you see that he gave up ownership for this reason, because he knew at some point, he is going to meet his father. And since he has the Shinigami eyes, he's going to see him, and he's going to see the numbers above his head. And as stated by Chief Yagami himself, Ryuk, the Shinigami, told him that you're not able to see the lifespan or the name of another Death Note user, right? Yet he was able to see Light Yagami's remaining lifespan, right? So, yeah. Again, he planned out for that, and I think he was quite sure that his father is the one who's going to take the offer, right? The Shinigami Eyes deal offer, given his current disposition and the guilt he's carrying. That's another point here. He didn't protest one bit, right? He was fine. He's totally cool with his father taking this deal, knowing the consequences that come with, using the Death Note or taking the Shinigami Eyes deal. Though that being said, Chief Yagami didn't die because of the Death Note itself, did he? Though, if Chief Yagami actually did put down Mello's name, I got my answer. Yes. I've been saying this whole time. I think if required, if need be, he would have put his father's name down in the Death Note. Yeah, he confirmed it, essentially. Yes, if his father used Death Note, he would probably, or a really high chance that he would have put his father's name in the Death Note, right? If he doesn't, then the fake 13-day rule gets blown apart, right? Though, little does he know, that rule is out there. It's in the open now. Mello knows about it, that it's fake. But yeah, Light Yagami would have killed his father. And, he was ready to kill Sayu. The only reason he didn't kill Sayu is because he knew it's going to be tracked back to someone on the task force. I didn't feel anything for Light Yagami because I didn't buy it that he's upset. Maybe, listen, up until Chief Yagami actually died, I don't think he was actually sad about it. But I think once he died, maybe that hit Light Yagami a bit. Once he realized the definitive nature of this, right? Seeing it actually happen, seeing his father die, before his eyes, maybe it is possible that he was sad about that. He was upset about that. I could see that. And there's that moment as, they show the Death Note and the pen falling. Could be a symbolic moment that maybe at that moment he dropped, or, he kind of, for a moment in time, that persona, the Kira persona, kind of dropped out of him as he was in shock to see his father actually die. So yeah, I could see an angle of him actually being upset once his father died. But, up until that point, No, I think it was all an act. I'm not buying it. I mean, part of that is definitive, right? Because he's having that inner monologue about somehow selling this moment, and at the same time trying to get his father to write down Mello's name. And, it has to be Mello. It has to be his father writing the name down because his father's seen his face and he knows his name, right? Yes, he said his name out loud and Light Yagami heard it, but he doesn't know the spelling. But regardless of that, even if he knew the spelling, he doesn't have the face in mind, right? So yeah, that's why he was so desperate, but it didn't happen. Chief Yagami passed on before, and he wasn't going to do it regardless. Even if he had more time, I don't think Chief Yagami would have written his name in there. Mello's real name, Mihail, right? Mihail. But I did feel bad for the task force. Those are genuine tears. Their hearts are probably broken. This is a leader. This is someone they look up to, right? Chief Yagami, Soichiro Yagami. They have so much respect for this man. All of them, Matsuda must be just devastated. You see, I was shedding tears. So those are the people I feel bad for. I feel bad for Sayu. I feel bad for Chief Yagami's wife, right? Light Yagami, not so much. Not so much. Not at all, actually. I don't feel bad for him at all in this situation. But yeah, in the conclusion of the episode, Ryuk did say, Soichiro Yagami didn't actually use the Death Note, and he died believing that his son wasn't Kira, right? He got definitive confirmation that he wasn't Kira. But again, this is only possible because he gave up ownership of the Death Note for this exact reason, right? So he couldn't be pinned. So yeah, he's still thinking of these things and make sure to cover some of his tracks. But the slip-ups are there. I can see it coming now. I think he is going to be taken down at some point, like Yagami, that is. But yeah, I guess, someone like Chief Yagami maybe didn't deserve to die knowing that his son, his brilliant son, is actually this disgusting, mass murderer they've been after this whole time, Kira. So yeah, in that sense, maybe it's a good thing. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, this episode, you see how open Light Yagami was to just let his father go through with this. He didn't object one bit. Maybe he did think someone else might take it from the task force. And of course, Matsuda did step up and he said, I should take it. Let me take it, Chief. But he must have known that, his father is going to step up to take this responsibility, given the insurmountable guilt he's carrying right now, right? Because he did end up giving up the copy of the Death Note, though in the end, like a hero, right? He made sure to hold on to it. He brought it back. He got it back. And also, that guilt of the things that happened to Sayu, right? I mean, there's also that angle, that possibility that, since he did die, the next day, essentially, after taking the Shinigami Ideal and having his life, essentially half of it taken from him, does that mean he was about to die pretty soon anyways, right? There is that angle. But again, there's a few different things that have to go into play though, right? Or have to be taken into account about the Death Note affecting the natural lifespan of someone. But yeah, speaking of the Death Note itself, the copies, I really wanted to go through and kind of go through the roadmap of all the copies throughout the series, because by the end of it, you see that he returns Sidou's copy or Saido's copy back to him, and Saido's off. He's taking that copy, and that's the OG copy, the one in English that dropped to Light Yagami, right, or the one Light Yagami spotted. So that seems to be gone out of the story, right? And they made sure to again give us a distinct shot of that as all of them put their hands on it. It's a Death Note in English. So that copy's gone. But let's do the roadmap for the 3 copies at this point in time. I mean, there's 4 copies total, and one of them still hasn't come into play at all, right? Rem used her own copy. She did, to take out Watari and L. Ryuk still has his copy, and that's the one copy that hasn't come into play at all. And of course, only Ryuk can use it, but, he hasn't used it. But, I believe they established in episode 1, he told Light Yagami up front, right? Once the time comes, it'll be my responsibility for putting your name into the Death Note, right? So, maybe the one time it does get used on screen or, in the context of the story could be, Ryuk putting Light Yagami's name in there, right? I could see that angle, the story potentially ending like that. But the roadmap for the 3 copies that have been in play, I want to do the whole roadmap and then see the present situation for all of them. One of them has gone, It's gone from the story. For at least for this moment in time, it's not part of the story anymore because Saito kind of, just flew off. And in that sense, you can see maybe Light is trying to get rid of this, potential problem, right? Give him his book, send him off, get him out of your hair, right? So the roadmap. Initially, Ryuk had that copy. It was Saito's copy, but he tricked the old man or the Shinigami King into thinking that it's his own copy. He took that second copy, right, having his own copy on his belt the whole time. But he prepared that copy, Saito's copy, in English. Again, it was explained in episode 1, the reasoning for that, and he dropped it to the human world, right? Like Yagami comes across it. Then, of course, the big problem starts happening, and that really big moment in the forest happens. And again, they, confirm all that in that flashback, right? So he switches it. So Rem is attached to that copy now, right? The one that has English, Saito's original copy, right? Then that copy flies off, and he wants her to give it to someone, right? Someone that fits a really specific profile, and it goes to Higuchi, right? And Rem is still attached to that copy. Then Higuchi gets busted, right? Taken down, and as Higuchi is in custody, Light Yagami has the book in his possession, right? He's holding it as Higuchi dies, meaning ownership transferred to Light Yagami, right? Everyone on the task force touched that copy, so they saw Rem. They could all see Rem. Everyone on the task force has seen all the Shinigami at this point, right? But yeah, then that copy ends up at Task Force HQ in their possession. And then the custodian of that becomes Soichiro Yagami, Chief Yagami. And then I believe there's a time skip, right? So meaning, even though Light was the owner of it, because of the time skip, Chief Yagami became the owner of it because he was the one holding it, right? Or it was in his possession. So, given the 3-4 year time skip, right? That means he lost ownership of it, right? Light Yagami. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is the right train of thought here, right? Then, of course, Chief Yagami had to exchange it for the life of his daughter. Sayu got kidnapped. Mello, wanted the copy. He got it. Chief Yagami gave it up reluctantly, but, it was his daughter's life, and he did it. And of course, because of that, he carried a lot of guilt, tremendous amount of guilt. And, he even before the time skip, Chief Yagami didn't have the best health. He had the heart attack, right? A natural heart attack. He wasn't in the best condition, regardless of any of this. Now there's a time skip, and then all this tremendous amount of guilt and pressure on him. So yeah, he might not have had that many years left anyways, given his health. But yeah, then Mello has it. Mello and his crew have that copy, and then Shido showed up, right? He blew the lid right open about the fake rules. But then, of course, the task force shows up, and they raid the place in LA. So that is a bit strange that the Japanese task force, Kara Task Force, is the one that's raiding this spot in LA, unless no one else knows about it. Though they might be in contact with N near, right? But that's besides the point. That's trivial. Let's move on. Stay on topic here. So let's see. Yes. So essentially, they get it back. They get the copy back. And yeah, Chief Yagami is a hero for, getting that copy back, right? He was quite upset about letting it go and, and having it fall into the wrong hands. In the end, he made sure to get it back. But, in the end, he gave the copy to Saito, right? Essentially gave up ownership, and it returned to Saito because, again, he was holding that copy, right? As Chief Yagami died. Right? Though, of course, there's that one shot of him dropping the death note and, the pen falling in slow motion. But yeah, that copy seems to be gone. It's out of the picture. Saito flew off. He got his copy. He doesn't need to stick around, does he? Now then, the other two copies, right? Jealous. Let's do Jealous's copy. Of course, Jealous died. And then his copy dropped. Ren picks it up. She decides that it's only right that the human Jealous kind of protected gets his copy. So of course she flies down, gives it to Misa. She becomes quite attached with Misa, right? She cares for Misa. But then that whole moment happens as Misa's been taken into custody, and then the moment in the forest, right? The big switch. since Rem became attached to the other copy, Ryuk became attached to this copy. Of course, a lot of switching, taking ownership and giving up ownership. So it kind of, plays out like that. So yes, Jealous's copy, the one Misa had, then had Ryuk attached to it. And of course, that's a copy he was holding. And, he told Ryuk to get rid of it once he is in the cell, or once he tells him get rid of it. Just, he's giving up or ownership of it, right? And it was buried. Later, Misa goes to, dig that copy out. She gets all her memories back, and Ryuk is attached to her and Misa. Or sorry, he's attached to that notebook and Misa, right? Again, that was all part of Light's plan, because he wanted to make sure Ryuk is the one accompanying Misa so she can do the Shinigami Eyes deal, because Rem is not going to allow that again. Yeah, and that copy in this episode, Light Yagami borrows from Misa, and he kind of shoves it down his pants. I mean, at least half of it's down his pants, right? I guess, he's putting it in that area because he's not expecting anyone to go near that area or, accidentally touch him there. Or, again, he's not at risk of being frisked, right? But, even if he is, he kind of put it there rather than behind, at the back. He put it right there in his crotch. Half of it at least, and you see Misa kind of looking down at it, but still, he borrows that copy, and he tells Misa, I'll give you as many pages as you need, but I need this so I can keep my memories, right? And yes, he was able to do it. He was able to keep his memories, even though he gave up ownership of the third one, and that's the one I'm on now. That is Rem's copy. That's a Shinigami's copy. She used it against L and Watari, and in doing so, she died. And of course, like Yagami was the first one to get to it. He pocketed it, right? Now he gave up ownership of that copy to Ryuk, right? So Ryuk became attached to this copy, the copy Rem dropped. He needed Ryuk there so he could do the Shinigami Eyes deal with his father, right? And now that copy is the task force, right? The task force is going to take that copy, hold that copy as evidence, right? So there it is. So that means there's two copies in play now, right? Misa's copy and the other copy, but he cannot use that copy. That's, in the task force's possession, in their custody as evidence, right? For safekeeping, right? So yeah. Two copies. So let's see how that plays out, right? Though he did mention, a big major plot point of this episode was that, he's kind of shifting the responsibilities of Kira to Misa. And, on that end, you see that he's really playing the game now, isn't he? He even told her that he loves her. That's not something he was even able to fake before the time skip, but now he's able to do all of that, right? He's really playing it. He's really hamming it up now, right? You see that it looked like they were making out. So he's open to those things now. He's certainly playing the game. But yeah, that's about it for this episode. Unfortunately, quite a sad goodbye, to Chief Yagami. That was really one of the characters I really didn't want to see die. But, that's the nature of this story. It's quite sad, but it's not, shocking either that he has died. But, also another thing, isn't it suspicious that, all of a sudden, after a copy's been lost, Kira, the person they're trying to hunt down, the task force that is, gets in contact and, he's so open that he's sending them a copy of a Death Note instructions and tells them this is your chance to retrieve the other copy back. That's a bit suspicious, isn't it? Surely, I keep saying it, but, I just have to hope at some point they do start suspecting something off here, the task force that is, or someone for the task force. Again, that being said, there is some opening for that. There is a tiny opening for that because Mello knows about the rules being fake, right? Only Mello, though, because everyone else there died, right? But yeah, Mello knows. Now it's quite a bridge, but if Nier could get this information, then things become really really interesting, don't they? They become quite juicy because Nier is in contact with Fake L, right? And the task force. But again, it all kind of comes down to Mello and his next step, his next move on this, right? Again, they've established that he absolutely hates the idea of collaborating with his rival and Nier. Though, again, that being said, it was quite clear that they're off limits. They're not trying to kill each other. They're just trying to outdo each other, right? They're rivals. It's competition to see who gets Kira first. But they're not trying to kill each other, right? I think that was clear. I think I mentioned that in my last discussion, right? But yeah, I think that's about it. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in full length or perhaps early access to the next episode, consider checking out the Patreon page, just an option. But if you're interested, the link is in the description, in the pinned comment. And also the link to my social media is in the pinned comment and the description, mainly Twitter, because that's the one I'm most active on beyond YouTube. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. And I hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.